the welfare of millions of people for generations to come may be affected by the wisdom which we here display. If Nigerian leaders and our British partners are to prove themselves worthy of their trust, now is the time for us solemnly and truly to dedicate ourselves to seeking the greatest good of the greatest number of our people in Nigeria. The welfare of millions of people for generations to come may be affected by the wisdom which we here display. If Nigerian leaders and our British partners are to prove themselves worthy of their trust, now is the time for us solemnly and truly to dedicate ourselves to seeking the greatest good of the greatest number of our people in Nigeria.
Koiki Media, we're bringing the world closer to your doorstep.
Koiki Media, Koiki Media, Koiki Media, we bringing the world closer to your doorstep.
Koiki Media, Koiki Media, Koiki Media, we bringing the world closer to your doorstep.
Àwọn sálára àgbà yìí dá, àwa ló láṣà àti èdè. Gbígbédè lárugẹ nílẹ̀ Oòduà o, àwa gangan ni bàbá.
Koiki Media, Koiki Media, Koiki Media, we bringing the world closer to your doorstep.
They never sabi wetin we carry for her.
But they move closer before they go sabi.
I said they never know wetin we carry for body.
But they move closer before they go sabi.
Ọ̀kín lọ lọ́jà ẹyẹ, kìnìún ló ló lajú.
Ẹyẹ tó dorí kodò bí àdán ọ̀pẹ̀jẹ̀ lẹ́nu.
Ká ṣiṣẹ́ fún ilẹ̀ bàbá wa, ká ṣiṣẹ́ fún ìlú bàbá wa, ká jùmọ̀ sowọ́pọ̀ ká lè kó Odùduwà.
Odùduwà kò bá lè gbé wá.
Ọmọ Odùduwà ṣe gírí, ẹ dìde fún ẹ̀tọ́ adúláwọ̀, ká lè jọ jùmọ̀ gbé délẹ̀ ìlérí, káwa lè gba ògo ilẹ̀ wa, ká ṣiṣẹ́ ká lè jọ gbàdé, ká lè gbàdé adé adúláwọ̀, àwa ni mọ̀lẹ̀ tí yóò tàn káàkiri.
Ọmọ Odùduwà ni wá.
Koiki Media, àwa là ń gbé tó lárugẹ.
Ètò tó pọ̀jù owó tiwa mọ́ ni.
Kásá ẹgbẹ́ polówó ọjà wa kájé gbúgbà yín jẹ.
Ètò tó pọ̀jù owó tiwa mọ́ ni.
À ń gbé tó lárugẹ, à ń gbàsà lárugẹ.
Ètò tó pọ̀jù owó tiwa mọ́ ni.
News and sports ẹ máa rí gbọ́.
Ètò tó pọ̀jù owó tiwa mọ́ ni.
Ọmọ Ìjẹ̀bú alárẹ̀ mi ló ní kí n máa ké tantan. Koiki Media ọlọ́lá gbajúmọ̀ mi o, máa bá ṣẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ o. Ọmọ Yorùbá nìyẹn, ọmọ Yorùbá tata o. À ń gbádùn rẹ, ọmọ Ìjẹ̀bú alárẹ̀ mi, ṣẹ́yìn ló máa fi dìbò tẹ̀ mọ́lẹ̀ o. Ẹ̀yin lọ́mọ onígbò máa ń dé máa dé, ẹ̀yin lọ́mọ onígbò máa wọ̀ o. Igbó máa wọ̀ tájòjì ò gbọ́dọ̀ wọ̀, àjòjì tó bá wọ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ á tẹ̀lé ní ẹbọra. Ẹ̀yin lọ máa náwó kóyìnbó tó dé, ìgbà tó yìnbó dé o, owó náà èèyàn dẹ́ tún pọ̀ sí o Koiki Media ṣàwa ní bàbá. Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Àdáńtọ́ àtúnpèrègèdè.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Àwa là ń gbé tò lárugẹ jẹ́ ká jọ gbọ́ o.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Àtúnjà fẹ́tọ̀ ilẹ̀ wa fẹ́tọ̀ ilẹ̀ Yorùbá.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Ọmọ Oòduà ni wá o tọkàntọkàn.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Ikú tí ó ṣe bí lébi òsì àdìmú bàbá iyọ̀.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
We bring you work closer to your doorstep.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Afẹ́fẹ́ tó ń fẹ́ òòdùn kan kí oko lára ni.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Àpèrègèdè Olódùmarè ló fún wa ṣe.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Gbogbo ayé ẹ gbọ́ àwa ní bàbá o.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Ẹ máa bọ̀ wá ẹ gbé polówó ọjà yín wá o.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Òdúdúwà la gbé dání òtítọ́ la gbé dání.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
A kì í sọ̀dálẹ̀ a kì í sóníkèéta.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Àdúró tán a tún pèrègèdè.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Koiki Media we bring you work closer to your doorstep.
Àwọn ní bàbá.
Koiki Media is around.
To give us latest.
Is around o.
Give us latest.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Ẹ mú kalẹ̀ sílẹ̀. Ẹ tẹ́tí ẹ gbọ́ ètò tó kojú gbogbo.
ladies and gentlemen,
Ẹ mú kalẹ̀ sílẹ̀. Ẹ tẹ́tí ẹ gbọ́ ètò tó kojú gbogbo.
Koiki Media is around.
To give us latest.
Koiki Media.
The welfare of millions of people for generations to come may be affected by the wisdom which we hear. Leaders and our British partners are to prove themselves worthy of their trust. Now is the time for us solemnly and truly to dedicate ourselves to seeking the greatest good of the greatest number of our people in Nigeria.
And a very good evening and welcome to the live transmission from London. My name is Olayomi Koiki, popularly known as Koiki Media. One out of millions of Yoruba people that still believe in the vision of the late Chief Obafemi Jeremiah Awolowo. Who is the legend Obafemi Awolowo, and how do we remember him when he actually died at a very young age? He died the 9th of May 1987 in Ikenne, southwest part of Nigeria in Ogun State. He was 78 years old when he died. But one thing that many of us are still believe in is vision. And that vision is that we must fight till we achieve our quest to the right to self-determination, which is our inalienable right. As today's program is dedicated to late Chief Obafemi Jeremiah Oyeniyi Awolowo, it is important that you share the program and you will have the opportunity to call in and also give us some of what you think, or some of those that remember the legend himself. As we all know, it is important that we must not give up our quest to self-determination, as we must continue to fight till our quest is achievable. But this cannot be done if none of us are not putting as much effort. Some of the effort that we are doing today under the leadership of Professor ADEBANJI AKINTOYE to remind us about a man that was born on the 6th of March 1909. In the course of this program, I've been able to pull a couple of things that we might be able to show you in terms of videos and documentaries about the legend himself. Mo kí gbogbo ọmọ Yorùbá nílé lóko ní káàkiri gbogbo ibi tí ẹ bá ti ń darapọ̀ láti darapọ̀ mọ́ wa ní ìrọ̀lẹ́ yìí. A máa sọ̀rọ̀ nípa bàbá wa olóògbé Obafemi Awolowo tí ó papòdà ní ọmọ ọdún 78 years old rather. Bàbá Awolowo padà síbi tí Elédùmarè ti mú wọn wá ní ọjọ́ kẹsàn-án oṣù karùn-ún ọdún 2024. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ wa lénìí a mọ̀ nípa bàbá Awolowo dáadáa, àmọ́ àwọn nǹkan tí a gbọ́ àtàwọn nǹkan tí ó fi yé wa bí wọ́n ti ṣe sọ pé is about 37 years ago today. Ọmọ tó bá bí ní 1987 tí kò ṣe ń sọ pé ká kíìpù Nàìjíríà, a jẹ́ pé kò mọ vision Awolowo látara irọ́ táwọn olóṣèlú ti gbélẹ̀ fún wa for a very long time. So I am doing this broadcast just to appreciate him and have it on record. I'm not sure we did something like this in the last 3 years of this movement, or probably maybe we've done it, I cannot remember. But this will be one that will be put in my archive, and we will continue to remember, and hopefully when we finally get to a country known as Yoruba nation, like Belajinu, we will be able to remember the legend and one of the most fearful person by the English people during this era. It was not just somebody that had a vision. The vision was done while he was alive, but his life was cut short. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn èèyàn ti sọ oríṣiríṣi nípa bàbá yìí, and I hope that today I would have those that have a bit of understanding kí ni Awólọ́wọ̀ fẹ́ gangan àti pé irú èèyàn wo ni bàbá wa Chief Obafemi Jeremiah Oyeniyi Awolowo. He was a Nigerian nationalist and a statesman who played a key role in the Nigerian independent movement. Wabisi, Ogun State, on the 6th of March 1909, but he died on the 9th of May 1987. Obi ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ọmọ, from Segun Awolowo Senior to also Segun Awolowo, Oluwole Awolowo, that I believe also have died, if I'm right. Ayodele Soyoide and Tokunbo Awolowo Dosunmu àti Tola Oyediran. They are multiple grandchildren. Awolowo studied at the University of London in 1944, also known as the Wellesley College, Ibadan. He was married to Anna Awolowo. When we talk about Awolowo, we would remember the action group, the Unity Party of Nigeria, Egbe Omo Oduduwa. So the word Oduduwa is not something that is new. It has always been part of the Yoruba people, and today we will be able to read as much of whatever we can lay our hands on, even if we have to do the program to be a continuity. Also, the African Newspaper of Nigeria Limited. But let's first dive into a bit of history as we have it based on what we have. I know that somebody like Professor ADEBANJI AKINTOYE has vast amount of history surrounding the legend. But we would just not want to disturb Professor today. We will just go with as much as what we can read and what we can take out online. And if we have to go back and verify certain things, I will be more than welcome to go back and speak to Professor ADEBANJI AKINTOYE. It would have been nice to have him on the show today, but I do not want to disturb him all the time. So we will leave him, but we will continue to remind everyone, especially Omo Yoruba, as you look at the topic today, who still have the vision of Awolowo for the Yoruba people. I am not talking about Nigeria. I am talking about Taloni vision Awolowo among all those that call themselves the Yoruba leaders, the elders, the elites, the influencers, the lecturers. Taleni gongon tí kò ṣe pé wọ́n kàn dé fìlà Awolowo, but they are truly Aworists. Tí kò ṣe èyí tó kàn fi orúkọ Awolowo tó fi gain momentum, and eventually they've used that to camouflage many Yoruba people today. So let's take you through the first background of who Awolowo is. Then we can start diving into some of the other areas as well. And like I said, probably in the next 1 hour or two, we would open the phone line for 1 or 2 people to contribute as well. And please don't ever tell me to speak only Yoruba. I am not communicating to you alone. Awolowo was fighting the British for the independence of Nigeria, and I'm sure Yoruba ni wọ́n sọ nígbà tí wọ́n ṣe gbogbo àwọn ọ̀rọ̀ tó fi ń communicate. So please, when those of you that come on our platform and say Yoruba nation là ń jà fún ká máa sọ èdè Yoruba, there are many platforms that you can just go and sit there and let them speak Yoruba throughout. This is not one of those platforms. I am communicating to the international community. Obafemi Awolowo, Chief Obafemi Jeremiah Oyeniyi, very powerful name, Awolowo. Obafemi Oyeniyi Awolowo was born on the 6th of March 1909. He died on the 9th of May 1987. Let's first look at the date he was born. Each time we talk about the 1914 amalgamation, that means Awolowo was a very young man or young boy when he was born prior before the 1914 amalgamation. So Awolowo ní kankan ṣe pẹ̀lú amalgamation. Awolowo was not involved. He did not sign any treaty. He did not got into a kind of discussion to pull the Yoruba people together pẹ̀lú ibi tó ń pè ní Nigeria lẹ́nìí. Awolowo was one person that was born just as many other of the ethnic indigenous people like the Sikh, the Tafa Balewa. They were all young. So I want us to look at the date again. Let us do some kind of maths. How old was Awolowo just after the 1914 amalgamation? Ẹ jẹ́ ká wo date yẹn. So when we look at 1909, when we add 1910 is 1 year, 1911 is 2 years, 1912 is 3 years, 1914 is 4 years. So if I am right, and I want as many of you that are listening to me, this is not a show that you sit back, you comment, you share the program, and let us learn as much. So tó bá bí Awólọ́wọ̀ in 1909, that means níjọ́ tó bí yẹn, from the next year is 1 year. From the following year is 2 years. From the following year is 3 years. From the other year is 4 years. And I believe that is 4 years. Awolowo will not be 5. I believe Awolowo will be 4 years. Kí ni ọmọ 4 years ò lè mọ̀? Kódà àwọn bàbá tó bí Awolowo ni wọ́n lè pàtàn fún bàbá Awolowo pé báyìí ni n tí ilẹ̀ Yorùbá rí kó tó di pé àwọn òyìnbó amúnisìn tí wọ́n máa jí wa papọ̀ with the southern and the northern protectorate. So when we look at that date, I still want us to keep an eye on that date. Ọba Elédùmarè, the God of the Yoruba land, knew that he needed to send somebody down to the earth, whatever way it could be. It could have been somebody else. It could have been another name and another family, but it just happened to be the Awolowo family. Àwọn bàbá àti ìyá tó bí Awolowo wọ́n rí ọmọ bí. And when we look at the life of Awolowo and some of the things that we've read about him, I believe we can call him a spiritualist or whatever you might call him. But his vision was just too powerful for the British to hold on to. And they were not allowing Awolowo to fulfill that vision. And eventually, most of the things died in the line of what Awolowo and what he wanted for the Yoruba people. There's been a lot of things that have been said about him. Okay, a lot of people say that Awolowo was 5 years old as at the time he was born, between the time he was born and the 1914 amalgamation. Some say I call him a genius. Please let us give and tell us kí làwọn orúkọ tẹ́yin rò pé Awolowo jẹ́. When people are born into a family, àwọn kan lè rí ìran láti sọ pé ọmọ tá bí sínú ilé based on ntí Ifá bá sọ. I am not talking about your Christianity or your Islam. I am talking about the Yoruba tradition. Tó bá dífá fọ́mọ yẹn, wàá rí vision ọmọ yẹn, wàá rí pé ọmọ tí ó ní nǹkan tó gbọ́dọ̀ ṣe nílé ayé, and then they will also then do certain things to make sure that the evil ones do not touch him until his dreams are fulfilled. Ìbéèrè tí mò ń béèrè lénìí ni pé, do we have any of our politicians, our elite, as of today, that have the same vision and dreams like Awolowo? I will tell you categorically that I don't think so. So it seems that the lies that many people have been told is that Awolowo have a vision, and I don't need that same vision for Awolowo. I'm talking about all our current politicians in the Yoruba land today. They dress like Awolowo, they pretend to be Awolowo, but they don't have the same dreams and vision like Awolowo. So let's move forward. Awolowo was a wonder child, like somebody said there as well in the comment section. I will not mention name, but I will appreciate every single one of you because I do not want to be distracted, because this is a very, very important program this evening. He was a Nigerian nationalist. Today, we are calling ourselves a Yoruba nationalist. But not that Awolowo was not a Yoruba nationalist. As much as even if he was a Nigerian nationalist, he had a vision, not just for Yoruba people, but I believe he also had vision for the other ethnic indigenous people that have been merged together in what is known as Nigeria today. Forget about whatever anybody have told you, especially those tí wọ́n jẹ́ àwọn ẹ̀yà wa kejì. They've talked ill about Awolowo. But if anybody talks about the ills of Awolowo, we will come after you regardless of whoever you are. We will attack you with our media and we will fight you because he is our legend. Ẹ̀yin lè má ní value fún legend yín, but he is our legend and we will not tolerate anybody to speak the ill of this kind of man. He was a statesman who played a key role in the Nigerian independent movement between the 1957 and the 1960s, knowing fully well. And we have some backup evidence that we can always add to the context of this video. The next video I'm just going to bring in, is a lengthy video, it's a long video, but we will just pick a little bit out of that video for the purpose of this program. This was Harold Smith that gave us a bit of background to what and why àwọn òyìnbó, the British as at the time, were concerned and worried about irú èèyàn wo ni arákùnrin tí wọ́n ń pè ní Awólọ́wọ̀, irú àkọ̀dá ènìyàn wo ni. And that is why today many people, especially the Fulani, are scared of Dr. Chief Sunday Igboho. And I can tell you categorically because I know from the information that we got through some of their northern leaders that called us, and I'm not going to give you all their names, and even what Ikú Baba Yeye told us Aláàfin when I visited the palace. They are still the northern Fulanis tí wọ́n mọ̀rú èèyàn tí Dr. Chief Sunday Igboho tó jẹ́. And that is why they believe that if they kill Sunday Igboho, they will probably kill Yoruba nation. But because the gods of the Yorubas that protected Igboho on the 1st of July is still giving them a lot of concern. And that is why there's so much attack on him, because if you kill Igboho and take him out of the picture that nobody can see him again, then millions of Yoruba people will quietly just fade away without even talking about a big Yoruba nation. Because I got to be honest with us, whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter how many groups is out there, it doesn't matter how powerful they are, they've not been able to prove it to us. With their wealth, with their power, but they've not automatically proved to challenge the Fulani that are killing us and attacking us on our soil. Igboho stood out of millions of people, just like the legend Awolowo stood out as well. A lot of you are putting out comments. As one says again, Chief Awolowo was a philosopher, a welfareist, hardworking, selfless, and a representative of the best Yoruba ethics known as Omoluabi. He founded Yoruba nationalism with the stand on, and we are reviving it on, like somebody said again. And this is why we got to be grateful that we still have someone that believed in the same vision, that believed in the same thing like Awolowo, but he was taken out of the picture because if he was allowed to fulfill his dreams, he would also have taken us at least I said, to somewhere that we could have been talking about it today. And who is this person that I'm talking about? I'm also talking about one of our legends. Maybe before we play that video, we should remind you that this man that I've just popped up his picture right now, known as Bola Ige. Uncle Bola Ige also have this vision. Tí Awolowo náà ní, but the evil people that knew his movement, that knew what he wanted to do, that decided that it would not be in the interest of the Yoruba people to have him conclude on his vision of Awolowo. So the best bet, just like bó ṣe fẹ́ pa Ìgbòho, bẹ́ẹ̀ ló ṣe pa Uncle Bola Ige. So Uncle Bola Ige was killed because ó fẹ́ lọ in the line of Awolowo, kò fẹ́ lọ in the line of àwọn British, the creation of Nigeria, the evil monster like Baba Professor told us in one of the write-up that I just, I know sometimes we read these things, but until you read it again and again, if you go back to the Nigeria needs to dissolve. Nigeria needs the courage to dissolve peacefully. The part 1. When you go to the page 2, just towards the second phrase or the second line, Professor Akintoye said, and I quote, "The British essentially placed a death sentence on Nigeria." So many Nigerians today, you have been placed on a death sentence, but you probably don't know. If you're having problem with any of the platform, you can always switch to other ones. But again, we are fully locked in all the platform tonight, and nobody can take bon content. So if one is not comfortable with you, just switch to another one. That's all I can tell you. The British knew that Awolowo wanted something. He was fighting for something unique for his people. But the British said, no, you're not going to have it. Awolowo because in Tonfei would liberate Africa, and then it would challenge Europe, the continent that is just not having everything, but yet they were able to manipulate and steal and make it look like Nigeria is a country worth dying for. But Nigeria is not a country worth dying for, because Nigeria killed Chief Bola Ige, Uncle Bola Ige, because he was fighting for something that the Yoruba people needed as at the time that we needed it. And this is the reason why the Yoruba people will fight to their last blood to revive what Awolowo wanted, which the British know. Because one more way, the Awolowo has given back to billions of Yoruba people that would not listen to their corrupt politicians that is working on their behalf. We would fight till the last blood to make sure that we revive and go back to where we used to be, and then we can start becoming people identified as Yoruba people with a true identity. And that is why it is important that any Yoruba tó bá ṣe sọ fún yín pé let us fix Nigeria, they do not have the same vision like Awolowo. The British essentially placed a death sentence on Nigeria. The Fulani were one of the Nigeria's smallest people. There were only about 6 million of them in the northern region. They were not even a non-indigenous people. They had no homeland in Nigeria. They were everywhere. They were nowhere. They have no homeland in Nigeria or anywhere. They were part of the Fulani people that were scattered all over the West Africa, consisted mostly of a nomadic cattle herders. They were the least educated. When we talk about education, like Baba Oluwole said, Baba Akintoye said, at independent, Nigeria was truly the economic giant, but it was the Yoruba people that they are talking about. Nigeria, 25% was the population of the Black Africa. One of the regions of the Nigerian Federation was the Western region that Baba Awolowo created to challenge and make sure that we can become propelled and be doing very well around the world. But today, we are as backwards as anything else as you can think of. Western region are the most intensely educated population, not in Nigeria, across the Africa. The Nigeria therefore are the largest and the most solid class of educated professionals in Africa, but that is the Yoruba people. By the time of independence, Nigeria was ranked as one of the world's largest exporters of cocoa, subject to the vision of Awolowo. We were also, as we know, that there were exports of palm oil from the eastern region due to their own leaders. And they were not doing bad in the north. They were also the granite pyramid. But The British never wanted anyone to be happy, and things were not going to move as many of us wanted it to do. So the British essentially placed a death sentence on Nigeria. And this is how Uncle Bola wanted to revive that vision, but he was killed by those that were meant to protect him. The Yoruba people to jẹ́ kó protect Olóyè Igboho, àwọn gan ni wọ́n fẹ́ ṣekú pa, just as they killed Uncle Bola. Let's listen to this.
Àwọn jẹ́ àwọn ọmọ wa tí wọ́n ní iṣẹ́ dáadáa lọ́wọ́ tó jẹ́ pé inú wa sì dùn wípé Ọlọ́run bùkún ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ wọ́n ti bá ọkàn wọn dá májẹ̀mú wípé ní agbára Ọlọ́run by 2000 AD òmìnira máa dé fúnlẹ̀ káàrọ̀ òmìnira. Èmi sì mọ̀ dájú wípé Ọlọ́run Oòduà, Ọlọ́run Ọ̀rànmíyàn, Ọlọ́run Ọbáfẹ́mi Awólọ́wọ̀, Ọlọ́run Adékúnlé Ajáṣí amúwadé ilẹ̀ tuntun náà.
Amúwadé ilẹ̀ tuntun náà, bọ̀ ṣé pẹ̀lẹ́nu láti máa débẹ̀? Wọ́n rí i pé Uncle Bola was driving towards that path, taking us towards that vision, but it has to be stopped. They have to take him out. They have to kill him. They have to make sure that the dreams that he had about what Awolowo told him, that dream will never come to become fruitful. Let's listen to this.
I'm thinking AFENIFERE is constantly in crisis.
AFENIFERE is dynamic.
It is not changing, it's losing its values. Look at this. Let's go back to the Bola time. Bola was arrested by the Abacha government. At the death of Abacha, he came out of detention. And I learned in detention he had a revelation that Awolowo appeared to him in prison, telling him to lead Yoruba nation out of Nigeria. I also learned he called some news editors to a private meeting where he reviewed.
I just want to appreciate my brother Ogbeni Bobby. Not that the rest of you are not influential or important, but as a media that I picked up among all our other media that is with me tonight, I'll say good evening, Ogbeni Bobby, for joining us. I actually have to pause that video just to give you that accolade and respect. The rest of you also, Mukibuboa, let's go back and listen further.
That appearance of Awo to him, I learned he also took that message to the caucus of AFENIFERE, telling them that Awo appeared to him in a trance. And Awo came with the message of Ududua. Then some leaders interpreted it to say, what is this saying? Why is he always claiming the position of Awo? First, you know about it.
Who are those leaders? Àwọn wo ni leader náà tí wọ́n wà in opposition to the dream and the vision of Uncle Bola that he eventually was killed? Àwọn wo ló wà in the same obstacle today? Thank you so much, Ogbeni Bobby, for the super chat. Àwọn wo ló wà also that wanted to kill Sunday Igboho on the 1st of July with the help of the Fulani Caliphate to make sure that Taba ti pa Igboho, then many of you that are shouting Yoruba Nation, Oduduwa Republic will no longer be able to do so. But Igboho survive it, and they are still making sure that they can take him out. They are doing as many things to make sure that Igboho's voice will not be remnant in today's Yoruba people asking for their right And that right is an inalienable right. I want us to always remember that. Ẹ̀tọ́ tá ń jà fún ìkò kì í ṣe pé à ń bá ìjọba jà. It is just a vision. The vision that the Yoruba people must go back to where we used to be before the British created what is known as the fraudulent 1914 amalgamation using Lugard and his girlfriend Laura Shaw to produce the amalgamation of the Northern and the Southern Protectorate. There is nothing to do with election. Election is something that the British rigged. And as I'm going to go back to Edmond Obilo, Baba Tiomba Soro was one of the closest to the late Uncle Bola Ige. And Uncle Bola Ige said he had a dream. The dream that many of you might say is not going to happen, where Yoruba people will not be free. Even the British know that Yoruba people will be free, because they know that our vision is to free the Yoruba people so that we can be able to contest from the football to the any sport around the world without having to travel to Europe. Láti máa sọ pé a fẹ́ lọ máa gbá football or compete when we can also set up as many vision of Awolowo. Let's go back and listen a little bit more to Edmond Obilo as that interview with the vision and the dream of Bola Ige that Awolowo told him to lead the Yoruba nation out of Nigeria, and that dream was stopped by the evil Yoruba people working in conjunction with the Fulanis. Àwọn tó ń bá Fulani ṣiṣẹ́, àwọn ni wọ́n gba ẹ̀mí kúrò lára Bola Ige tí wọ́n jẹ́ kó rí vision yẹn gbedele. And this is why the Yoruba people of today must be able to make sure that we are spiritually okay, from whether you are a Christian, a Muslim, a traditionalist. A gbọ́dọ̀ gbé ẹsẹ̀ wa dúró dáadáa, because they are ready to take as many of us out of the picture, so that ọ̀rọ̀ Yoruba nation, Oduduwa Republic, Yoruba kingdom, whatever we decide to call it, will not be materialized. Àwọn tó ń bá Fúlàní ṣiṣẹ́, wọ́n ṣiṣẹ́ yẹn takuntakun débi pé wọ́n ò fẹ́ jẹ́ kí vision yẹn kó wá sí ìmúṣẹ. But the vision will come true. There's no doubt about it. Ìjọ tó máa dé nìkankan ni àìtí mọ̀. But pé Yorùbá ò ní bọ́ nínú Nigeria, I can categorically tell you that the Yoruba people will be free from the bondage and the shackles of the evil crime of humanity that the British kept us in. Let's go back and listen a little bit more.
The story I'm talking about, right?
Go on, go on.
I am done with my narration.
Okay.
So I want you to come in now.
Papa, Bola Ige was arrested in Ibadan here and taken to Makurdi prison.
And you're right. Ọ̀gbẹ́ni Bobby said something that I just picked up. Ó ṣeé ṣe kó jẹ́ pé àwọn tó pa Bola Ige, àwọn náà ni wọ́n ń pààrọ̀ láti fi pa Olóyè Sunday Igboho. They are still alive. They are actually probably old, young. They are still within and outside Nigeria. Àwọn tó ṣekú pa Uncle Bola Ige, àwọn náà ni wọ́n fẹ́ ṣekú pa Olóyè Sunday Igboho tí Olódùmarè ò fún wọn ṣe. Thank you so much once again. Keep the comments rolling, and it is important that you love and share. If you're not doing that, you are not helping this message of the Yoruba vision that we wanted. Ẹlòmíà náà ò lè pín. It is important that you share, you like, and invite people. We kọ́ wá gbọ́ àwọn iṣẹ́ t'Awólọ́wọ̀ ṣe sílẹ̀ àti tó fẹ́ ṣe tí kò rí ṣe tí àwa máa bá parí lágbára Elédùmarè, lágbára Jésù Kristi, inshallah. We are not fighting Yoruba nation because of religion. We are fighting Yoruba nation because we want to take back our true identity. This is a live transmission, the 9th of May 2024, which also collide with the day Awolowo died in 1987. Kọ́ba Elédùmarè kó bá wa foríjì bàbá yẹn, gbogbo àníyàn ẹ̀ lórí ìran Yorùbá kó má pẹ́ ju bó ṣe yẹ lọ mọ́, ká lè bọ́ kúrò nínú wàhálà àti ìdààmú táwọn olórí burúkú British tó kó wa sínú ẹ̀. Ẹ jẹ́ ká máa ṣe ọ̀rọ̀ yẹn lọ báyìí.
I used to work 9 to 5, but what made me a millionaire
where he was sharing a room with one of our colleagues, Mr. Kunle Ajibade, who is still a director of the news. Yes, Shibola came back from prison saying that he had a dream encounter with Papa Awolowo. Now let me situate that position. When Abacha came, and AFENIFERE also came, and we have been holding meetings. In 1995, a meeting was held here in Ibadan at the Premier Hotel. And we said at that meeting, there was a communique at that meeting that we wanted restructuring. We wanted a return to regional government. And there are many people written about that. And when Shibola came back from prison, he said we needed to work hard on this regional government. So we had a caucus meeting in Ibadan, in which Shibola was the chairman, and I was privileged to be the secretary. So that meeting agreed on the restructuring of Nigeria along regional lines. Fortunately for us, General Abacha, as bad as he was, his constitutional conference has already recognized what he called the 6 geopolitical zones. And we believe that was really good enough to start from. So Shifige said, the person who can do this thing best for us was Shifatoni Inoru. Shifatoni Inoru should be invited from abroad to come and lead the campaign so that if he's president, he'll be able to restructure Nigeria along regional lines.
If he becomes president?
Yes.
All right.
And I went to the US and I met Chief Inoru.
You were one of the young persons who were in love with Bola Ige, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Look, I saw your name in the list. Go on, sir.
So, and one of our leaders, I believe, Professor Wole Soyinka, also met with Chief Inoru. Chief Inoru was not happy with his colleagues. He said what the politician did was wrong. That they should agree on the constitution first before they agree on the transition, not the other way around. There was no constitution at that time. He said, how can you agree on transition without the constitution?
I have to be coming in because it's not my video. We're only using it to educate ourselves in this particular program that we are running this evening. Ẹ̀gbọ́n kan tí wọ́n sọ níbẹ̀ yẹn, you cannot even run a transition without a solid constitution. So from the day one, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended, has always been a constitution that will not work in the favor of any true indigenous people or Nigerian, as you want to put it. Let's go back to Baba Bola Ige, his video that we were playing earlier. Let's take us back to that video and listen a little bit more to what the late Uncle Bola Ige was saying. And I will just rewind it back again because I want us to listen from the beginning. Wọ́n ní Ọlọ́run Ajásin, Ọlọ́run Awólọ́wọ̀, and those Ọlọ́run ò tíì tú níbi tó wà, they are still going to save us from the bondage of how to get the hell out of Nigeria. Let's listen to that. I'm coming.
Níbi tí ẹ̀gbin àwọn jẹ́ àwọn ọmọ wa tí wọ́n ní iṣẹ́ dáadáa lọ́wọ́ tó jẹ́ pé inú wa sì dùn wípé Ọlọ́run bùkún ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ wọn ti bá ọkàn wọn dá májẹ̀mú wípé ní agbára Ọlọ́run by 2000 AD òmìnira máa dé fúnlẹ̀ káàrọ̀ òmìnira. Èmi sì mọ̀ dájú wípé Ọlọ́run Oòduà Ọlọ́run Ọ̀rànmíyàn, Ọlọ́run Ọbáfẹ́mi Awólọ́wọ̀, Ọlọ́run Adékúnlé Ajáṣin, amúwadé ilẹ̀ tuntun náà nígbì tí ẹ̀gbin ìyà àti ìrẹ́jẹ kò ní sí fún ọmọ káàárọ̀ òjíire mọ́. Tàbá ń sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ilẹ̀ ìlérí tí a fẹ́ lọ yìí, àwọn tí ọ̀rọ̀ òye wọ́n máa kù bí egbére. Lójú àwọn egbére tí mò ń wí, ó dàbí ẹni pé ohun ẹ̀yẹ ni kí ènìyàn máa wà nínú ẹ̀gbin, nínú ìyà, nínú ìrẹ́jẹ. A bá sì fojú wo, kì í ṣe àwa Yorùbá nìkan ni ìyà ń jẹ ní Nàìjíríà. Bí Yorùbá ti bọ̀ wọ́n ní àrùn tó ń ṣe ojì náà ló ń ṣọ̀ọ́dún. Ohun tó ń ṣe Abọ́yadé ń kọ́ o. Ìyà tó ń jẹ Ṣógbẹ̀yìn l'Abẹ́òkúta ń kọ́. Òun náà ló ń jẹ Súlè ní Kòńtàgò. Èmi tó bá ń pa bàbá Búwà ní Adó-Èkìtì ń kọ́. Ṣé ó yàtọ̀ sí èyí tó ń pa Ìkejùkù ní Abakaliki? Nígbà tí mo sọ Ìkejùkù ní ìsìn, mo wá rántí tí wọ́n láyé ló ń jẹ́ kí rántí o. Nígbà tí a wà ní Òbúgà, ẹ̀yin náà àti gbọ́, olóyè Akíntọ́lá ló ń pe ọ́gà ní Òbúgà. Ó wá polongo ẹgbẹ́ NNDP Dẹ́sà Òkè ló ń bí ọjà wa kẹ́kẹ́ tó bá ti kọjá ẹ̀sà wípé ẹ̀ lọ sókè lẹ́sìn. Ilé àwọn Ìkejùkù lù. Ìjẹ́bọ̀ àwa náà ṣe action group àti NCNC àwa ní ọgbà àgbà yẹn ló bá kúkú mú ìgè àti ìtúkú ló bá pa á lọ. Mi mọ̀ bóyá Bọ́lájí wà ní tí Bọ́lájí bá wà ní kó gbọ́ ilé yìí o torí tó bá di ọ̀rẹ́ mi á sọ fún ẹ. Chief Akíntọ́lá ó lọ sí òde ló wá ní wọ́n máa sọ men of integrity bẹ́ẹ̀ làwọn kan wà ní tí wọ́n integrity o. Bọ́lájí ṣe ti gbọ́ ṣùgbọ́n yẹn Àkúrẹ́ ìlú àwọn olú àti fásọ̀rọ̀ tí ilé ìṣẹ̀lẹ̀ Chief Akíntọ́lá ló ṣe campaign. Gbogbo ènìyàn wọ́n sì kó lọ́wọ́ sókè o. Gbogbo wọn lọ́wọ́ sókè. Gbogbo ènìyàn wọ́n sì kó lọ́wọ́ sókè. Gbogbo wọn ọwọ́ ni mo ti ń bọ̀ ní mo rẹ́ ní ajá sí.
The welfare of millions of people for generations to come may be affected by the wisdom which we here display. If Nigerian leaders and our British partners are to prove themselves worthy of their trust, now is the time for us solemnly and truly to dedicate ourselves to seeking the greatest good of the greatest number of our people in Nigeria.
As we continue to remember the legend of Obafemi Awolowo, let's go back more into his biography. As we said earlier, Awolowo was born on the 6th of March 1909. He died on the 9th of May 1987. Today is the 9th of May 2024. That's about 37 years ago. Mo kí gbogbo yín bàbá wa nínú Olúwa, mo kẹ́yìn tí ẹ̀ ń darapọ̀ mọ́ wa káàkiri gbogbo àgbáyé. My name is Olayomi Koiki. Awolowo founded the Yoruba nationalist group Egbe Omo Oduduwa. Egbe Omo Oduduwa was established in 1945. So Eric, it has always been that we have been in a movement, the Yoruba national movement, Egbe Omo Oduduwa. So táwọn kan bá ní ó is because people were killed and people were destroyed by people that were used by the Western puppet and the Fulani Caliphate to make sure that the dreams of the Yoruba people were stopped along the line. We know those that attacked and never wanted Awolowo to fulfill his dream. We know those that doesn't want Uncle Bola to fulfill his dream. Likewise, we know those that do not want Professor ADEBANJI AKINTOYE to fulfill this dream. And that is why when we talk about the attacks and the infiltration, kò kí n ṣe lẹ́ni nígbà tó dá ẹgbẹ́ yẹn sílẹ̀ ní 1945, ó jẹ́ kí a ti wà níbi tó yẹ ká wà lẹ́ni, but people were used to destroy Awolowo, people were used to destroy Uncle Bola again, and people are still being used to destroy Professor ADEBANJI AKINTOYE as I speak to you tonight. Egbe Omo Oduduwa, a Yoruba national movement, is a Nigerian political organization that was established in 1945 by the Yoruba leaders in London. Ṣé pé kò kí n ṣe lẹ́ni láti ń jà. Oh, come back home. Yomi, come back. No, I don't have to come back home. UK created Nigeria. We will take down Nigeria from the diaspora. We will use every means to make sure that you are well educated to understand that kò kí n ṣe lẹ́ni ni wọ́n ti ń gàjà yẹn bọ̀ láti London. So me living in London is just a privilege to be using the tools of today known as the social media to enlighten and educate millions of Yoruba people that still does not understand the vision and the dreams of Yoruba people. So the group was established in 1945 by the Yoruba leaders in London. Its initial purpose was to unite the Yoruba people in a manner similar to the tenet of the Igbo State Union and the Igbo Federal Union. The organization grew popularity from 1948 to 1951. In 1951, Egbe Omo Oduduwa, Yoruba National Movement, was supported the formation of the Nigerian political party Action Group. And today, as many of you might not know, let's look at the history a little bit of that. The foundation Egbe Omo Oduduwa was established in 1945 by Adeyemo Alakija as president, Yekini Ojikutu as the vice president, Obafemi Awolowo as the general secretary, Akinola Maja, Oni Akerele, Akinola Williams, Saburi Yobaku, Abiodun Akerele, DOA Oguntoye, Ayo Rosiji, and others in London, England. Their state aim in setting up the organization was to unite the Yoruba people. The expansion, the Egbe Omo Oduduwa grew in importance in 1948 when it was launched in Lagos with a great fanfare by the prominent Yoruba politician and association with the Nigerian youth movement. These politicians include Chief Bode Thomas, Chief H.O. David, Chief Kofo Abayomi, Chief Akintola Williams, Dr. Akinola Maja, and others. The revival of the Egbe Omo Oduduwa in 1948 was not accidental because that was the year heated debate were being held to decide Nigeria's political orientation, nationalism, or patriotism. During this period of the struggle for independence from the evil British, the radical nationalists had been in ascendancy since 1938, but it became very pronounced between 1945 and 1948. This period was marked by the general strike of 1945 and the 1946 Nigeria-wide NCNC campaign against the imposition of the Richard Constitution. I've talked about that constitution before. Yoruba politicians in Lagos, led by Chief Bode Thomas, formed the group in response to the aforementioned ethical specific organization and also to chart a specific course for the development of the Nigerian Western region, populated, overwhelmed by the Yorubas on March 21st, 1951. The Egbe Oduduwa set a political party called Action Group. Mukia Tobimiloma, welcome to the program. The Action Group was therefore formed to implement the ideals and the objectives of the Egbe Oduduwa and was led by one man known as Chief Obafemi Awolowo. Relaunched, the Egbeomo Oduduwa was relaunched a number of years after the first Egbeomo Oduduwa. Other organizations with Egbeomo Oduduwa, Oduduwa Economic Agency, Oduduwa Education Foundation, and Oduduwa Development Agency. So you can see that kò ń ṣe lẹ́ni ni àwọn èèyàn ti ń jàjàǹgbara láti lè gbára wa kúrò. But because we have people that also work with the Fulani Caliphate and the Western puppet, because into máa jẹ lẹ́ni tí wọ́n ro into máa ṣẹlẹ̀ sí ìran wa ní ọ̀la. And that is the reason why we must all fight today to save the future of the Yorubas from the monster created by the British in 1914 fraudulent amalgamation when Awolowo was just 5 years old, as many of you agree in the broadcast this evening. Tẹ́ bá rá àwọn Yorùbá tó ń ṣe oríṣiríṣi tó ń ṣe fàájì tí wọ́n dá sọ̀rọ̀ Yorùbá nation. They are not those that believe in the vision of Awolowo. They are people that just want to have a Nigeria that will never be fruitful, will never give us our true identity, and will continue to take us backwards. But for those of us that are in the full belief of the Yoruba nation, we must never give up, and we must do everything within the midst of our power, by prayer, by fasting, by whatever ritual you have to do, by also educating and pushing the message and never giving up, because the dreams of the Yoruba people, as dreamed by Awolowo, will eventually come to be fruitful. Let's go further as we are reading the background and the history of the legend himself, Obafemi Awolowo. My name is Olayomi Koiki, popularly known as Koiki Media. Ìní ọjọ́ kẹsàn-án oṣù karùn-ún ọdún 2024. It's a bright weather from London here, and it's exactly coming up to 1954, which is just the same time in Nigeria, also known as 6 minutes before 8 p.m. local time. And was the leader of the government business and minister of the local government and finance, and the first premier of the Western region under Nigeria parliamentary system from 1952 to 1959. But something happened in 1959, something that decided what it is called the fraudulent system that the British knew was not going to favor Awolowo. They tampered with a lot of things. The next video that we're going to show to you right now is one other proof that the evil British Empire, as at the time that they were negotiating Nigeria, knew that Awolowo was going to win the election. But nítorí pé wọ́n ti bá Awolowo ṣe, you can see that kò ń ṣe 1950 Awolowo ti ń wọ UK. We talked about the foundation of Egbeomo Oduduwa in 1945 in UK, in London. And that means that the Yoruba people have been traveling before even most of you can start saying, come back home, let us fight it together. We don't have to be at home. We can also fight it from a diaspora, which is exactly what we are doing today. Let's listen to this.
Hello. Mrs. Carol Smith, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
May I say how delighted we are to be on Passion. We've looked forward to speaking to an African television station for decades. This is something we have looked forward to for such a long time, and we are so happy to be here.
Thank you. Mr. Aaron Smith was a young, bright, and principled Oxford University graduate who was recruited by the Colonial Office and posted to Nigeria. He took his final examination a year ahead of his class. He also married Mrs. Carol Smith, whom he met while they were both at Oxford University. Together they went to Nigeria, where they had their 2 children. Mr. Aaron Smith, you were featured in a program recently by BBC Radio 4,
Yes.
titled Document,
Yes.
and that was hosted by Mr. Mike Thompson.
Yes.
You were alleged that the British government rigged the first and most important election in the history of Nigeria in 1959 in favor of the North.
Before you hear the answer of Aaron Smith, this video that we are showing you today, àwòrán tẹ́ ń wò lénìí, is the pure evidence that the British that is playing panky and their double standard telling Nigerians to go get your PVC and vote in whoever is going to be the one that you want, but also working behind the scene to favor certain political parties, to eliminate another political party. But because Nigerians are very gullible people that does not understand that the British same rigged the election of 1959. The same election that could have favored the Yoruba people was rigged by the British. So when some of you say INEC is corrupt, no, INEC was not corrupt. British created the corruption for INEC, and the census was also rigged to favor the North. Let's go back and listen.
Correct?
Yes.
How long were you in Nigeria for?
From 1955 to 1960. And we were...
He was in Nigeria from 1955 to 1960. Ṣé what it be wọ́n nígbà yẹn? You that you are now saying you want to fix Nigeria, that you are complaining about the election. This is a man that lived in Nigeria, gave birth to his 2 children in Nigeria from 1955 to 1960. He was also told by the British that he said so much. He has finally died, but this video is still one of many videos in the archive of the British government that doesn't want us to know the true image and the true picture and the true meaning of Nigeria, that many of you want to kill yourself and say, we will vote for Peter Obi, we will vote for this. Thank you so much, Kunle Bakers, for the super chat. I know whenever you are in, it comes with a super chat. Thank you so much. And for those of you that wants to support us, it is always available by doing so with all these bank details. It is voluntary. We are an independent media. We need a lot of your support so that we can continue the great work that we are doing. Let's go back again and listen to this.
Hello. Mrs. Carol Smith, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
May I say how delighted we are to be on Passion. We've looked forward to speaking to an African television station for decades. This is something we have looked forward to for such a long time, and we are so happy to be here.
Thank you. Mr. Aaron Smith was a young, bright, and principled Oxford University graduate who was recruited by the Colonial Office and posted to Nigeria. He took his final examination a year ahead of his class. He also married Mrs. Carol Smith, whom he met while they were both at Oxford University. Together they went to Nigeria, where they had their 2 children. Mr. Aaron Smith, you were featured in a program recently by BBC Radio 4,
yes.
Titled Document,
yes.
And that was hosted by Mr. Mike Thompson.
Yes.
You are alleged that the British government rigged the first and most important election in the history of Nigeria in 1959 in favor of the North. Am I correct?
Yes.
How long were you in Nigeria for?
From 1955 to 1960. And we were based in Lagos. I was on the staff of the Department of Labour. I was largely occupied with employment problems, all the employment exchanges, and statistics, and international reports, and was kept pretty busy. I was also stationed in Lagos in charge of the capital and the port. I was the port labour officer as well. And I also devised a port labour scheme and later a social security scheme, which was one of the first in Africa, which guaranteed workers some income after they'd finished work.
That are part of Awori's welfareist, a country then that was ready to make sure that people were well taken care of. Evidence spoken by Aaron Smith. Let's listen furthermore.
It was a Providence scheme. As I say, it was called the National Providence Scheme, and I was very proud to have put that on the statute book.
I was going to ask you what your role is. You've mentioned 3 important. Is there any particular name given to your office while you were there?
Just labour officer.
I was a labour officer, a senior civil servant.
Okay.
I only intended to stay in Lagos initially for 2 tours of duty.